afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to a special, I would say an exclusive, On the Sofa with Esther. Today, we celebrate a living legend, Billy Sutty Sutton, 46 years sober, 46 years a winner. Once found collapsed on the floor of a warehouse, covered with mice and surrounded by empty vodka bottles, Billy has fought his way back from rock bottom. Today, he stands as living proof of survival and redemption, and he's a winner. The grandson of the notorious Peaky Blinder Austin Kelly, Billy's life has been anything but ordinary. From the back streets of Birmingham to the front lines of Miami's Scarface era, he stood shoulder to shoulder with police in cartel shootouts, had his Jaguar blown up by the Cubans, and looked down the barrel of a gun, yet he never carried one. The most honored European in American history, Billy was decorated time and again by Miami police, mayors, and government officials. But this is not just a story about Billy, an incredible man. This is the story of a man with a huge heart, a man who put his life on the line for humanity. He was instrumental in creating the Little League football team in Birmingham, bringing together children from all races and ethnicities, keeping them off the streets and giving them hope. For the first time ever, Billy Sutty Sutton breaks his silence. He has come out of retirement to talk about Peaky Blinders, Bloodline, Scarface, survival, and being a redemption winner. Welcome, Billy.
Welcome to you, Esther, and may I say, an honour and a pleasure to be on this great situation with you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, Billy, you have such an incredible story, and there's so many different strands to that story. But for the purposes of today, I want to get to understand where it all started, Billy. You know, from the bull ring to your mother Mary to Peaky Blinders, you know, the story, where the story started.
Well, what happened? I was born in 42. All my family were bloodline of Austin Kelly, my grandfather, who was a notorious Peaky Blinders gangster. My mother and her four sisters were all flower sellers in the famous bull ring. The characteristics, you can imagine a young baby being brought up in that streetwise environment. They were tough women, very tough, always fighting, jealousy, but hard workers. But the thing that impressed me more than anything, Esther, was the loyalty that was shown in that 40s era. I'm talking about a bull ring full of families of barra boys and barra girls, the Harts, the Kennedys, the Mosleys. These great people were all wonderful workers on the barras. And yes, they sold a lot of rubbish to the general public, but that was part and parcel. There was fire eaters, dear Johnny Cairo, escape artist, a young lad, 2 years of age. My mother had me on her side, serving the American GIs. I used to take the money off them. And of course, at the end of the day, when Mary wanted to get the money off me, I used to perform terrible. So that streetwise kicked in very, very early in my life. But you can only imagine the once a week bath, aluminium bath in the courtyard, hot water from the stove, from the gas stove, women around with robes on. And I was the first in with Mary. She used to put me between her legs. So I knew about titties very, very early in life. And after Mary and me got out, there used to be fights from the rest of the girls to get the clean water. Could you imagine that in this day and age.
Mhm.
The one thing that struck me my early days as a child was the love of going through a war, of death, sadness, misery, but that boring and that environment that I was brought up in done me in good stead when I faced alcoholism later in my years and surviving amongst the cartel in Miami in the mid-80s.
Okay, and that's a great place for me now to dive a little deeper into that experience because those your formative years clearly set you up for who you've become and the experiences that you have. And when I've read your body of work and what you've done. There's so much to Billy Sutty Sutton, even more than what I know. And every time there's something that's evolving more about who you are, but more so about what you've done. And you stepped out not just in faith, but there was something in your soul, in your spirit, that allowed you to not just only touch so many lives and change so many lives, but you changed it at the level of government. You changed that at the level of on such a level, and you were a one-man band. And like you said when we spoke earlier, that you used a lot of your own money, you weren't supported. So I guess before we start to elaborate a bit more about the Peaky Blinders and your formative experiences, what was it, Billy, that drove you? And we know we're going to come to the experience of being found in the warehouse, covered in mice with empty bottles, empty vodka bottles around you. But what do you think it was that really set you up to become who you are, but more so what you've achieved, Billy, at the level that you've achieved?
I think, Esther, having a powerful mother, Mary, she was the greatest friend in my life, but my worst enemy. She never let go of me. With all the years I was the playboy rebel, and believe me, I was a playboy rebel. The emotions of Mary, and I must say, the years she begged me emotionally to stop drinking.
Mm.
And you know what? I'm not proud of the fact, Esther. I fed off those emotions. When I said to her mother, I'll stop drinking for you, there was no intentions. No intentions whatsoever. It was only eventually in 79 when I fell through the door of Alcoholics Anonymous that I began to get honest and found the key to show a mother I could come back a winner. But those years, and I think people on your program who've got alcoholics in their family understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
Because alcoholism is not only about the alcoholic, more importantly, it's about the people who live with it, the emotional, physical blackmail of living with an alcoholic. I'm not proud of that fact. I put a mother, son, former wives through that. But I got to realize one thing. There's more good in me and bad in me. It's not a crime to be an alcoholic. It's an illness. But those years of kidding to Mary, I came back the winner. And she was alive to see me honoured in my own city by the Miami police, top Miami judge, and thousands of my own people. I came back the winner. And I'm proud of that fact, Esther.
Fantastic. But also, Billy, you have to realize that if you hadn't gone through that experience, it wouldn't have made you the man that you are today. You might not be of being proud of being the alcoholic that you were, but because can you imagine if the real scenario of being found, on the floor in a warehouse, you know, at the lowest of the low. That was the moment when I believe your life started again, when you realized on some level that I am more than this, but also it brought you to this pivotal point in your life, Billy, where you had to do some reckoning with yourself, and which you did.
Yeah, I think the important thing of there was a build up to that evening. I fell out with Mary and fell out and actually had a fight with some friends of mine. They told me they was concerned about my drinking habits. I didn't like it.
Mm,
I went at 4 in the morning to the Swan Yardley where my father is buried. I got over steel railings, which was a danger, and in the pitch black, I found my father's grave. I fell on it face first, cried and begged forgiveness to a wonderful father. From there, I drove back to the city, to New Street Station, where I had a fabulous flower business.
mm,
I went into the warehouse where I knew I got bottles of vodka. What I didn't realise at the time, the amount of mice in there. But
mm,
I didn't care, Esther. I didn't care. I fell away personally, physically, and mentally. I lied on the floor with cardboard boxes over me, mice up to my mouth while I'm drinking bottles of vodka. I was there for 3 days when a dear friend of mine, the late great Alan Towers, former anchor at BBC Pebble Mill, Birmingham, kicked the warehouse door down, dropped me up, threw buckets of water over me, put me under the sink tap, sat me down and told me that I was an alcoholic, that I was dying, and I'd lose my family. I didn't like the way he addressed me, Esther, but that great friend of mine threw me a challenge. And he took me back to Bevermore Studios, cleaned me up, wouldn't allow me to go to my wife Val and Mary. I was in too bad a state.
mm.
And that night, he and two great friends of mine, Derek Dugan, the famous footballer, and Big Pat Roach, actor, he was one of the great friends for 50 years of mine. They took me to a meeting of AA at Brookhouse, Solihull. They marched me up the steps, pushed me through the door. And as I went through the door, there was a man called Jimmy N. He put his hand out. He said, "My name's Jim. I'm a recovering alcoholic." He said, "What are you?" I said, "My name's Sutty. I'm an alcoholic." He said, "From tonight, you're going to be a recovering alcoholic." He said, "I know you. You sell flowers in the city. You're a streetwise kid." He said, "Let me tell you something now, Sutty. Take the cotton wool out of your ears, put it
Mm.
into your big mouth, learn to listen, and listen to learn." And from that night, Esther, I went to 7 meetings a week for 3 years to get the program. Instead of looking there, I had to look here. I never went there to save a family. I never went there to save a business. I went there to save me because I was the problem.
Fantastic, fantastic. And your time on the streets also, you know, you had to be strong, you had to be street savvy, you had to be so many things on the street, which you were and which you learned. And so tell us a little bit then about Peaky Blinders themselves, because what I'm sensing is that Peaky Blinders, they wanted to be acknowledged, they wanted to be seen, but they were also in control. So there was all this sort of juxtaposition in terms of what they represented. You know, they were violent, they were dangerous, and yet on the other side, they were caring for the community. And so, in the middle of that, you were brought up around that. And I believe later down, when you went to Miami and having to deal with the cartel, those formative years really stood you in great stead for that. So tell us a little bit about the world of the Peaky Blinders, or tell us a bit more.
What happened? Having a powerful mother, sisters, and her brother Dick was a runner for my grandfather, the illegal bookmaking. They used to go around street to street. And Jack, her other brother, he was in the Merchant Navy. He sadly got U-boats by the Germans, finished up in the water and the Isle. He came back, but he was never the same. He left the family and nobody ever found him ever since. You talk about the environment, the toughness, and it was tough, Esther. From 7 years of age, I used to be put in the St. Martin's pub, Peaky Blinders pub, inside the door with a packet of crisps and a Vinto, and all the barra boys, dockers and divers will all come in, see me there and give me £0.50, which was a lot of money them days. And they would sit down with me and tell me stories of what they'd been through with their parents. The grandfather I never knew. These were men in the Middle Ages who had experienced Peaky Blinders on the first instance. And streetwiseness kicked in early. It was going to be very useful for me in Miami. The dangers of the cartel, putting a gun to my head, which wasn't funny. I can't repeat your wonderful show, but when he put the gun to my head, I turned into him nose to nose and told him where to go in Birmingham jargon, so you can draw your own conclusions. 2 days later, while I'm back in England, I had to stay for 10 years of my life from the Fontainebleau Miami Beach to the Post House Birmingham because they targeted me. I had to have my family secured by the Westminster police because to get at me, the cartel would go round the back door of my family. And that was a big concern for me, a big concern. And Mary, unfortunately, used to see the British media of all what was going on in Miami, murder capital of America, the shootouts. And she used to say to me, son, you're not involved with that. No, Mary, of course I'm not. I had to lie to her. Of course involved in it. But my concern for her family, believe me, you can call it bloody minded. Why did I keep on doing it if I was upsetting and worrying the family? I'll tell you quite simple. I was on a mission. Them children in them ghettos, the most dangerous black ghettos in American history, African Park, Liberty City, I was the only white to venture into that area. Even black streetwise Miami cops who'd been murdered was dangerous. Yet I went in. The kids used to surround me with guns and knives and give me a verbal abuse like you cannot believe. But I stood my ground and I the trust of the kids and the respect. And I told them I was there to care about them. And eventually, Martin Luther King had plenty of dreams, Esther. Well, I had a dream. In 87, I brought 13 children from the ghettos of Miami, 7 Miami cops across the Atlantic Ocean to meet the children of Little League Birmingham. That was a dream I fulfilled. And with you mentioned the honours in America, I was honoured 41 times, Esther. named after me, Freedom of Miami, rank a colonel. But you know, the most important thing that hangs on my wall is a letter from the kids they writ at Heathrow when they were going back to Miami, telling me and thanking me for their experience of bringing me across. It's the kids that matter. That's what I was there for, them wonderful children.
Wow, phenomenal. And I've got to say once again, congratulations today, because it's 46 years sober, 46 years a winner, Billy. And we've only just touched on I would say, the precipice of your story. But I can feel the passion, the compassion for those children. But it was more so about, I just get a sense, Billy, with you, it's been about hope. There's something about hope, because you've come from such a place, and yet you still have that compassion to reach out into the lives of others. And you had hope for them so that they could see it for themselves. And I believe this also is the overarching story of Billy Sutty Sutton. And in this particular segment, we've spoken about your mother, Mary, and the importance. We've spoken about the boring. You've touched on Peaky Blinders. And for this particular session, as we wind this down, Billy, after going to Alcoholics Anonymous, what was the next pivotal experience, or what was it that made you think there's something more that I want to do in my life? How did you get to Miami from where you were?
What happened? My second wife, Valerie, and we're still the greatest of friends today. My first wife, Patty, my Carrie, my son's mother, she sadly passed away some years ago, but we became the greatest of friends. Patty had the young playboy to contend with, Rebel. She couldn't control me. Valerie had 4 or 5 years of alcoholism before she saw me come back the winner. I was very high profile. I was chairman of a major football club that I put tens of thousands of pounds into. I was on 6 committees, my own time and money. It's called people pleasing, Esther. And that would cost me my second family. Valerie was proud of me those years sober as an alcoholic. Wonderful home, wonderful style of life. But what she wasn't getting was more of me. I was people pleasing. And she gave me the goodbye treatment. The year before, in Corfu, we'd met a couple, American couple, Chuck and Ada Wolfenstein. Chuck was ex-Vietnam, New York cop. He was a private eye in New Jersey. We went over there and they invited us to come over in the summer of '86. I was now, after Valerie said goodbye to me, back at my mother's Mary, which was interesting because the typical mother, I told you so, I told you so. I didn't want to listen to it, but she certainly gave me the treatment, but in a nice way, not in a forceful way. I rang up Chuck to say there was no point in coming because Val and me had parted. In the conversation, I said to Chuck, what's going on there? Is there anything I should know about? He said, yes, crack cocaine. It's hitting Miami with the Cubans and Colombians. It's an epidemic for the black community. I said, that one day will come to my country. I said, the challenge is Miami, Chuck. He said, what are you talking about? You're a streetwise, recovering alcoholic. You want to go to Miami? It's murder capital of America. Miami police are getting slain week in, week out. and you want to go there. I said, that's what my vision is, to meet the Miami police, pick their brains, get all the information about the yardies and crack, bring it back to my country and Europe and give the forewarning.
And you did it.
I did it.
So we're going to explore that in part 2 of this incredible interview with Billy Sutty Sutton. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
And you have been an outstanding ambassador for your country, and we want to bestow upon you the honorary rank of Colonel of Police, City of Miami Police Department, along with all of the honors and all of the credit that go along with it.
Well, I'm lying here in a building full of dread and fear. You know it don't smell very nice. Then I'll unhear your eyes. Says, thank God you're still alive. As he beats away the miles. Didn't know just what to do. Mother Mary didn't mean to hurt you. Carry son wouldn't hurt you for the world. Didn't mean to make you cry. You know that I would rather die. All the false promises I made to you. Now the legend's here. The alcohol, it holds no fear. Don't control my life anymore. All the children, they play on. Father, mother, daughter, son. Now the legend plays on. Then the time came to move away. It was big summer day, sunny day. You know the day was a special day.